Do you have a dirty mouth or do you keep it clean in your personal and professional life? Does including colorful words in your brand voice, marketing language, or business meetings and clients help or hinder you in business? And how authentic can we really be in business? Today, we have two personal and professional coaches and very successful business leaders here to talk about this today. Julie Holly from the Conscious Investor podcast and Austin Linney from Construct Your Life podcast are here to share their very different approaches to dropping F-bombs to help you explore being intentional about cursing while doing business. From one-on-one coaching clients or landing million-dollar deals and contracts, will help you find a more authentic brand voice that sells more and feels good at the same time.
Protect my values and who I was. So that was a very respectful thing to do. At the same time, it pushed me out, right? And so, the moment that I actually dropped, an F-bomb up there in the ski shop, the guys were like, what just happened?
If I came in and was soft-spoken and didn't drop some bombs, they would not pay me and they would send me right out the room because that audience does nothing but respond to power and leverage.
If you want a successful business while living a life true to yourself, you're in the right place. Welcome to Authentic. Let's get started. Cool. So, very first episode today with guests. So it's a special one, not just because the guests are special, but it is a first here at the Authentic podcast. And I had an idea about a topic that hangs me up, and I think it hangs a lot of us up at times. So I brought on Julie Holly and Austin Linney because they came to mind as the perfect contributors to this subject, and you'll find out why later, I'm sure. And I wanted to talk today about cussing or cursing and using it and other language as a means of expression in our personal lives and our business lives, and especially when it comes to brands and creating a brand voice. So yes, this episode is going to have adult language in it. So it's explicit. And Austin, you have the go ahead. You're completely unfiltered. And Julie, of course, you're free to say anything you want and just be yourself as well. So let's start with some intros. Julie's actually a past client of mine and now a really super close friend. And she's just one of those people that light up your life personally and professionally. And she has the most awesome book club for networking professionals, like in personal development and business development. So if you go to julieholly.com, you can find that. And then I met Austin through Julie because Julie's amazing at networking and has the most amazing connections, Austin being at the top of my list. And he's really good at shaking things up and keeping it real and really provoking great ideas and hard truths out of people. So Julie and I were actually the other day making a joke about Austin. And he did tell us, so this isn't a surprise. We did tell this to him, but he came in and shook things up for Julie. And I was like, he just did that to me a few weeks ago. So the opposite of shit happens is Austin happens in the good way. So like,
damn it, Austin.
Yeah.
In the best way possible.
Exactly. Like, damn it, Austin, like you talked again, you shared again, and now I got to go redo something. So in a really good way. But yeah, if you guys want to take it from here, introduce yourselves, and then we can just jump into anything that comes to mind on this topic.
Go for it, Austin.
Well, I think what's interesting, right, is there's a theory I have where in life we can be focused on goals or we can be focused on a direction. And sometimes, as I say it, you have to stick the stick in the spoke of the bicycle wheel. You have to, when I became a coach and I got asked to coach, and I'm working on my third one right now, millionaire, you're like, what do they need me for? Like, they've got business, they've got success, but what they're asking for is a different point of view. They're asking to see something from a different point of view. So sometimes when you drop in colorful language, when you come at them from an angle they didn't see, it allows them to awaken certain aspects of who they are, and allows them to maybe not take themselves so seriously. I think, as adults, we take ourselves so seriously. Like, I remember I was in a room full of the best wholesalers in the country. I didn't know anybody. I was in Arizona, and there was like 10 people in there. And this kid was like labeling excuse after excuse. I mean, it was so weak. It was ridiculous. And I didn't even know the guy. And I just like yelled across the table. I was like, stop being a little bitch, motherfucker. And I was like, it's excuses. And everybody just goes, like, nobody said anything for like, and they were like, that was awesome. Like, and he was like, thank you. I needed to hear that. And it's like, sometimes the words that we don't want to hear is us running from ourselves, right? And with questions become answers, but the right questions, right? And so at the end of the day, it's this, if you're going, I've always been of this philosophy, if everybody's going that way, left, I'm going right. And I want to run against the grain, because against the grain, Naval, who's like my favorite guy in the world right now, I'm reading his book for the second time. He said, if there's two choices in life, and there's a fork in the road, always pick the short-term pain over the easy way, because it'll make you better for who you are. And sometimes, like, let's be honest, I know what I'm doing 90% of the time. And sometimes you're laying the groundwork to kind of come at them from a different angle. And sometimes that happens to be language. Now, that being said, I went on to Julie's podcast for an hour and didn't use one word because she asked me to, right? Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think it's definitely controllable. I don't love it sometimes. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, there was a rant. I was like, ooh, that was like 25 times in like a 7-minute span. Like, maybe dial it back. Every now and then I get a text from the mom, every now and then. and that's when you're like, oh, okay, maybe like, but I guess the bigger question, right, is, and I have people reach out to me all the time. Is it unprofessional in business, right? Or in a certain client? I think the setting dictates everything.
We're listening to the Pumpkin Plan as a family. Started listening to it. We live in North Idaho. We do a lot of driving. And so you put on a good audiobook. And I want our kids to be refined in the art of thinking outside the box. I want them to feel empowered to be entrepreneurs. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they are starting their own business necessarily, but to have that entrepreneurial mindset as an undercurrent in their life is really important. Well, at the beginning, in the introduction, he says, hey, just so you know, I'm going to be using language because, and I'm almost quoting him, that's what entrepreneurs do. That's how entrepreneurs speak. And I'm going to speak as an entrepreneur. If that offends you, I'm sorry. I will absolutely refund, the purchase of this audiobook, and you're welcome, and so I thought, isn't that interesting in light of, we're about ready to have this conversation. And then in light of what you're saying, Austin, where are you? What venue are you in? Who are you speaking to? It's all about that. When I think about language, and I want to give like a little, maybe a trailer backstory. Let's just go back. I was raised in a very, very conservative atmosphere. I was raised in a very faithful atmosphere. I still hold the tenets of that faith. They are like God, and my faith is paramount to my life. So none of that has changed. And that's what I think is also very interesting about like personal growth, development, evolution, however you want to put it, is that although I was raised that you say those words, they're wrong words, you are never to speak like that. There's this progression to where you start to realize, as you integrate into culture, there's a time and a place. There is a time and a place for certain things. So if I'm going to travel to other countries, and this is interesting to me, we think when we travel to other countries, we step into their cultures. We try to blend into their culture. We try to blend into their world. And we do that, not, in an immoral way necessarily, but we do that, by, we take our shoes off. We bow. We like whatever it is, you start doing that. So what I wrestle with is, in the conversations that we're having, how is that any different? Mm-hmm. Isn't the purpose of communication for me to convey my idea? And this is what we're raising our kids with, is that look beyond the language that you may or may not be welcome to use at your age. Listen to the message. Hear what somebody is trying to say, because that is the purpose of words.
So sorry, but so listen, this is my thing with country music. Okay. And I'm only using it as an example. Everybody tells me I don't like country music. No, you don't like the idea of country music. You're not listening to the words.
Oh,
Words. And it's so important, right? My message, right? I get text messages on my rants. Are you okay? Are you happy? I'm like, I'm great. You're not listening to the words. You're hearing the message, but you're not listening. Open up your ears. The words are what matter. In the setting, in the music behind it, in the context, it doesn't matter. I like jazz. I like dance music. I like everything rap. You're not listening to the words. Like everything is poetry, right? The words that we're speaking is poetry. The words that you're writing is art. That's all art. But you're so fogged up and you're not asking the right questions because you already have context on what you wanted to say to you when you listen. Because you're already seeing it through your lens instead of being open to what lens is available.
Yeah. To both of these aspects of it, again, the environment is important. And when we especially approach this in branding, our business creates an environment. But like Julie said, we might be in a certain seminar or networking group, and now we're surrounded with more peers. And I guess as entrepreneurs, one of our things is we want to leave the office so we can be more free to do a lot of things. And maybe that's cuss in our professional business setting, who knows? But then there's that other aspect too of like, who is our audience who's listening? And does it suit him? But I feel like people prioritize that over first picturing like their authentic self and who it is that they want to portray, like actually creating and curating their persona first before just like trying to make the masses happy too. So Julie's very authentic to herself. Austin's very authentic to himself, and they both work in similar business industries and in different business industries. So again, it's not that you're diluting your message just to make other people happy. That's being who you truly are. And you are suiting and attracting those people as well. But for example, maybe one of my other clients who has like mommy and me fitness, I don't think cussing's in her forte. Even if she does that at home with her brand message, I would say, let's find another aspect of your tone, of your language itself, your choice in words, the way you express yourself, that doesn't include that. But I feel like we get so filtered. And then as soon as we feel like we need to filter, it can hang us up sometimes. And that's where I get hung up too, because I go, the balance, I feel like I'm the balance in between you guys, where I was raised also like, you never say these words. And then I have the freedom as a young teenager, and I used to cuss a heck of a lot more. And now I try to use it selectively. And sometimes it feels authentic. Like, no, I really needed to say that. And I wanted to say it because I see it in Austin when he gets really pumped up and excited. He starts using those cuss words sometimes, and it adds power and impact. But then when Julie gets excited about something, she still has her own power and impact. She knows how to bring it. It doesn't have to include the cuss words. But for me, now and then selectively, like, no, I want to say the cuss word. Sometimes I'll work around it. Or like when I'm with a particular friend, I'm so much more conscious because she's also very much religious, very careful. And I don't want to disrespect her or make her uncomfortable. And then all of a sudden I find myself almost saying that word. And I don't realize how often I might say it until I'm in front of her. So then I actually I close my eyes and squint and I lip say it. Like I whispered, or I just say like, I just close up my face and I like mouth it. I'm still technically saying it. She's know what I'm saying, but does that help? I don't know. She still knows it, but she didn't hear it. So I get really hung up. And actually what actually triggered this conversation, I think the most was when I was hiking with my boyfriend and then we got engaged, we came back. And he's really funny and likes playing tricks. Usually in other people, I haven't been the butt of too many jokes, even in the past few years, but he found a ticket when he was out working from someone else's car, like just in the street. He put it on my car because he knows I hate getting parking tickets. So he put it on my car. We get back to the car and we're sitting in the car and he's like, oh, I'm on this voicemail, but he's recording me the whole time. He's pretending he's listening on his phone. He's recording. He's like, is that a ticket? Oh man, that sucks. And so I said the F word. I was like, oh fuck. And I got out of the car. I got it. But I knew, I was like, nothing can ruin this trip. I'm fine. I'm fine. But I'm just looking at it because I was like, I gave him such a hard time too about where to park the car. Like, that doesn't leave enough room. Scoot it down, scoot it down. So we reparked the car 3 times. And so I was like, all this is playing in my head and I'm opening it up and instant. I'm like, this is for Ford. It's not mine. And so, haha, we're laughing. On the back, he wrote like, this is not a ticket. Love you, my fiance, or whatever. So it's all cute and funny. But because I was like really self-conscious about myself in that video and knew that I had cussed after we rewatched it, I was like, don't show that to your parents. Don't show that to my parents. He eventually did. And I was like, as soon as, because I cussed in that, then I didn't want it to be shared with other people because of the way that I see them perceiving me. But I was being authentic in that moment.
I know, but ultimately, isn't there a bigger conversation behind the conversation, right? And I only say this because this just happened to me last night. Anybody that knows me, it's been a crazy couple months. I travel a bunch regardless of that, right? Well, I had a coaching client who coached with me for 3 months. And last night, he's got one more call next week, and he signed up for an entire year, right? But his message was this: I love how you're in a different spot every time we talk and how you're traveling and everything. Your coaching style fits me, right? So if I wasn't authentically me, then he wouldn't even be okay with it, right? And so, you know, Susie said this to me and it really stuck with me. I love how you are your brand. Like, I don't know if you did it intentionally, but you live your brand. And that's what I told that guy last night. So by you, and I did this, by the way, just so we're clear, 30 episodes in, I started saying, you know, I started like shortening the cuss word, and I started saying like, you know, F ... or whatever. And I got 4 text messages, and my buddies, my good friend said, that's not you. Don't do that. Don't do that. It feels fake. And that was like, oh, okay, well, wow.
I think there's a lot of power in that, in everything that you guys are saying, in that authenticity. So in a similar vein, I now have like the GoPro and I'm mountain biking and I just avoided, you know, and so you're out there and it's picking up everything that you're saying. And I was replaying something and I nearly took a big spill and it comes out. Oh shit. I'm laying in bed with my husband as I'm watching this because I wanted to see how this went down. And I was thinking, do I show this to my kids? They've heard me. So here's the thing, you know, so there's that element right there. But the other element of authenticity that we're talking about here is bridging this gap. So I was speaking with a coaching client yesterday, and she was saying that there's this gap. Like, I don't want to have this gap between like, I'm up here and the people I'm trying to reach are down here, and they feel this chasm. And when we put ourselves out there as if, well, I'm prim and I'm proper, and I struggle with this a bit because I do use language at times. You know, there are times where it's like, hey, it just flows, it works, it's authentically coming out. I'm not trying to offend anybody. And that's where I think that's another, you know, side conversation I think worth having is the offense of it all. But it's like, am I creating a chasm where it's like, you're here and I'm down here. Oh, do I feel judged because, well, she doesn't use language, you know, out in these spaces, but I do. So now I can't connect with her because I'm dancing around and I don't want to use language because I don't want to offend her. So now you've actually inhibited relationships because people feel a little bit more restrained around you than free to be themselves. So there could be the argument that using a little bit of language here and there lets people know, hey, I'm human, and wherever you are, I'm comfortable with wherever you are, and I can receive you 100%.
Isn't it authenticity? I can't even say the word authenticness and intent. Aren't those the 2 words? Right? Because here's what happened to me, and I've never shared this story with me, and thank God I have a good coach. When I got sober after like 6 months, there was a little bit of, I'm on my high horse. Like, look at me, I got sober. Like, not in like an outward way, but I was like, those words were coming out, and my coach was like, who the hell do you think you are? He was like, no, and you're never going to be able to connect with anybody if you get on your little high horse. And I think that is a super powerful lesson, because in that moment I always trigger back and set a point in my life to feel the emotions of when I felt despair, so I can always intently touch those people. And so that's kind of my flag that I come back to over and over again, right? And I think this walking on eggshells in business is that maybe you're seeking the business and you're not seeking the connection, because ultimately it's really hard to do business with somebody that you're not connected to. And so you just have to be you. And you know, you watch Monica, you know, start to do podcasts, right? You watch her to like put herself more out there, and there is an aspect of feeling out the reaction, but more it's the reaction of how I felt doing it, right? And over time that reaction is going to become more and more you. And you know, this is what I talk about with one of my coaching clients. She takes like 6 takes to do like a Instagram video, and I'm like, no, it's a one take, because that's you. And so now she's down to like 1 take, maybe 1.5, and I'm like, yes, like that's what you meant to say. On the 6th take, that's not what you meant to say. It's what you crafted to say.
Yeah. It's after we've gone through that filtering of, I'm afraid to show up in this way, I'm afraid to sound this certain way, then we become inauthentic. And I have a social media relationship that I'm working on right now. So I would be the 6 take person if I even made videos. I've made like 2 videos, and yes, I'm probably the 6 take person. But when it comes to my podcast, now and then there's sometimes where I'm just not in the right state of mind. Yep. And it didn't connect, and I feel it afterwards. So it's as soon the same I've noticed within like posting on social media. I will create a message, or I will post something. As soon as you hit send, like I feel something internally. And I think it's more intuition of like, is this on target or is this off target? Sometimes that comes from fear, but sometimes I'm like, that feels crappy, I'm taking it off. That didn't feel right. And so I think that it cannot feel right sometimes because we're afraid of being judged, but then also because we've over filtered it and it's not really us anymore. So like, which kind of it doesn't feel right is it when it comes to sharing the message? And it's like, if you've dropped the cuss word, if you did it like intentionally, you felt it coming, but you were passionate in that moment, own it. Try not to feel that yuck because, oh no, I have a fear if they're going to judge me now, they're not going to like me afterwards. But then there's sometimes where you've just said things and you haven't said anything meaningful, true to yourself, or shown your passion because you're being too selective with our words.
There's somebody that I really like that does this really well. And this is initially roughly a year ago, the first time I started having this conversation to my core with myself, because I've kind of had this dialogue, even, you know, with friends and such about language in the past. But I started listening to Andy Frisella's podcast. A friend had sent it my way and said, listen to this episode. And anyone who's listened to any episode knows there's a F, like one after another. And my husband is like, he's just such an amazing person. It's just not something that he prefers to be around. Like he doesn't like that. And as we were working out one day, and we're in a space where we could, you know, stretch, and we were the only ones there. So I had it, you know, playing on speakerphone because I wanted to listen to the podcast. And my husband was a little bit turned off. He's like, golly, like he's just like dropping all these F-bombs and everything. And I said, but think about, he knows who he is, and he knows he is deeply connected with his audience. His audience is consistently growing because he knows the message he's delivering. He is confident in himself, and he knows who he is speaking to, right? So if I'm going to go up to and meet the president of the United States for the first time, and depending on which president you meet at whatever period in history, you might want to drop something, but you're not going to, because there's a level of respect and everything. But that's a different level of respect when we're talking about cultivating and curating our tribe. Now we want to speak their language. We want to resonate. So I told my husband, I said, you know, I think it's really great that he is speaking this way, which is really funny. I'm sure anyone who knows me would be like, really, Julie, you know, but I'm like, but he's delivering his message to an audience I would not be able to reach. That's not an audience. And so now these people are, hearing, whatever message, and it's resonating with them and empowering them to live this next level up life, potentially. Like I'm extrapolating a lot here, but that's the purpose of conversation, is to level up and to grow, and also to have lots of fun.
Mm-hmm. I see that in him doing that, it would help me feel more comfortable to drop a few when it felt authentic to me. So I think he's leading by an example of like helping free people up from being so, do I have to be overly curated, overly perfected in their approach in it? I was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. But it didn't necessarily turn me off into a certain extent, but it's not what I really like to listen to. But one of my favorite examples of this, and I love this woman, she's really fun, but it's Marie Forleo. I took her B school at the very beginning of my business. I went to one of her book signings and I got to see her and like Rachel Hollis talking on like a stage. So that was super fun. But when I first started listening to her, and that was maybe like 4 years ago, in her Marie TV YouTube videos, she would have the Jersey Marie, and that was an extension of her. And that was the, cussing little whippersnapper, crazy girl. And then there's like, the regular Marie, which was fun, but she has cut it back a little. And that's because she learned that her audience were a lot of parents watching it with their kids. Mm-hmm. So she was more selective, but there isn't like, she wiped it out completely. She just says explicit content, like on the ones, like just warning, grab your headphones. And then she's still her. But I love that, her as an example of that. She's like in this beautiful dress, her hair all nice, super great stage. And then she's dropping F-bombs or something. I'm like, this is cool. And it made it different too.
I just was in New York with some clients for consulting all week. If I came in and was soft spoken and didn't drop some bombs, they would not pay me and they would send me right out the room, because that audience does nothing but respond to power and leverage. And so you have to come in aggressive, like leading up, true story, because I was with Julie before I flew out. Leading up to the whole week, I'm saying in my mind, listen to Frisella, get aggressive, kind of get a little nasty. Like that's what they're gonna bow down to. They're not, because I'm the coach, I have to be this person, because if they don't respect me, then they won't do business with me. But yeah, then I go over to my other client who's a girl. You have to be, it's like a little more small spoken, not as aggressive. Like my friend said this to me, and I thought it was the greatest compliment ever. She goes, you have just the right amount of punch me in the face and hug me in the same sentence.
Yes.
And like, there is a delicate dance between that. But if I can't be myself in business and in my coaching business, then I don't want you as a client. If I'm trying to, that's why with my podcast, there's no script, there's no nothing, there's no questions, because I don't have a context that I'm trying to get to. Like, because all we're trying to get to is the meaning of why we're having the conversation in the first place. And so this is why when I meet people, hi, homeless, drug addict, divorced, alcoholic, nice to meet you, because I'm giving them the permission to just be themselves. And isn't that what everybody's really looking for? Is that permission to remove the labels, the masks, the identity, to truly be who they are? Because when you're in alignment with 100% of who you are, then you will attract who you need in your life. The issue being is that we think that everybody's going to enjoy us. That's not the case. Seth Godin talks about this all the time. You only need 100 true fans, because you're so worried about getting to 10,000 fans, but you're not even serving the 30 that you have. And so the 30 that you have are there because they like you. And so just be you, right? And sometimes it's aggressive, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's more chill. But that's because I've done a lot of personal development, a lot of searching of who I am, and ripped away the 17 masks that I was wearing, because that wasn't me, and business was really bad. And I was unhappy because it wasn't who I was. And I say this till I'm blue in the face. I said this to 2 people yesterday. When people come on to work with me or partner with me or whatever they call it, they never ask once about money. Nobody's ever asked me about money. They ask, what's the mission? What's the vision? What are we doing? Why is that? Because they're bought into who I am in my core, and the money is secondary.
Yeah. But like Austin can dial it up or down with, here's the softness, the punch in the face versus the hug, because he has both. And when he meets with someone, he shows up authentically himself, but he knows which ingredients, essentially, which hat, which suit, which jacket to show up with.
That's a good point.
I'm going to add to this as people are trying to figure out who they are and what layer they are and, where they're at. I have this jawbreaker analogy. Initially, it was more of a peeling back an onion and the layers of the onion, but nobody's stinky. We're all sweet. We have some stinky moments, but you know what? We're all sweet and good, and we're just trying to progress and evolve, as who we are. And so I was thinking about a jawbreaker, and as a kid, I'd eat those, and like you'd start out, you'd get different flavors with every layer, and the colors would change. But every once in a while, you'd pull it out of your mouth because that's what you do. You want to look and evaluate like, oh, what's it at now? And when you do that, sometimes you look and it's like this beautiful, like fuchsia color. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then sometimes you pull it out and it's a swirl of colors. You're like, oh, that's pretty cool too. And sometimes you pull it out and it's just like a nasty, like not the pretty shade of gray. I love grays, but it's like just this nasty, murky color because everything is in transition right there. And the struggle so many people have, like clients of mine are having the struggle of, who am I? Can I receive myself in this gray zone that's not as beautiful as the fuchsia and not as flavorful as this other color? Can I receive myself right there and give myself permission to just be? It's messy. It's not as pretty. Maybe the flavor isn't as great, but that's okay. I'm in transit to the next best version of myself. So that's okay. And unfortunately, kind of to your point, Austin, so many people want to just stay constricted in this box, almost like, one of those snakes, in India that the person is luring out. And it's like, just let yourself out of the freaking basket, be you. And you're going to have messy moments. I'm in the middle of a messy transition moment right now. Everyone in my life knows about it. I'm like, hey, yeah, it's just, but I recognize that I'm receiving it, surrendering and saying, it's okay. I'm on my way to the next part. And so when it comes to language, there are different points in my life when I first discovered language and gave myself permission. I mean, like you should have seen the jaw drop. I'll never forget. I was upstairs in the ski shop and I said something, and because everyone knew I did not cuss. I didn't say anything. Like they wouldn't talk about things around me. And that's to everything that I've learned. Like it's, for better and for worse, it separated me from other people. They'd be talking about movies or talking about certain things. They'd be like, oh no, Julie, you need to go away. Like, trust me, this isn't for you. Oh, so I got pushed out of things, but they did it not in a malicious way. Like truly they were like being very like trying to protect my values and who I was. So that was a very respectful thing to do. At the same time, it pushed me out. Right. And so, the moment that I actually dropped, an F-bomb up there in the ski shop, the guys are like, what just happened? I'm like, well, I just got divorced and I've discovered lots of things in life.
Yes. Including some cuss words. Yeah.
Right. And so that to the point of some of those murky points in life where you're going through transition, it's no different than a child learning a new skill and ability. It gets messy and you're trying to test the boundaries of your own personal comfort. Give yourself permission to do that. Figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
And I feel like we're becoming more conscientious of word selection in other areas within race and gender and equality and with COVID. Like there's some like, don't say the V word now, like, unless you want to get into a discussion with someone that you're not prepared for. Like, so it's not just cuss words, but, so in all things, how we want to approach and discuss these. And I guess I just realized here, we're all sitting here as coaches. I'm more of the brand coach. So I help people find their clear message and express themselves authentically while marketing their business and making the big sales, but having fun and being themselves at the same time. What are two things, one from each of you guys that as coaches to your clients kind of come up in this realm of expression, your language, authenticity? Like what is some sort of takeaway, or what would you want to teach more people in this arena?
Intent is everything. Meaning you can be mad at yourself or other people can be mad at you, but if ultimately your intent is not to harm people, then that says more about them than it does you. I'm dealing with something right now with my coaching client. I was like, you don't have a mean bone in your body, so I'm not even going to listen to this conversation, because it's showing you that your family is thinking really small. And when somebody else places the blame off themselves, then they remove them of that feeling of guilt, and they're trying to put it on you. So I ask everybody, what is your intent in this moment? And when you can identify the intent, and you can identify the meaning, which then in turn identifies how it's landed.
I think I struggle with that sometimes. I say too much, or sometimes my words don't come across, and my intent
because you don't.
doesn't
It's
land.
because you don't believe your words 100%.
Okay.
I used to do this too. I used to make a firm statement and then back it up with a or second guess myself. And I had somebody tell me, like, every time you do that, you discredit yourself. And so I don't do that anymore. I can't choose how my words that come out of my mouth hit you in what moment. I can't do that.
True.
Preach it on that for sure.
There's so much. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry.
Just a quick add on Austin's, like, it's the same with branding. We can be so intentional about how we create our brand and our message. People might oversee the huge big signs in their face and catch this one little thing, and that's what they riff on, and that's what they get. Out of all the things that you've done, this is the thing they get. And you're like, that's not the thing.
I'm not gonna lie to you. This is what people do all the time because they're searching for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect example. I use a separate situation, but happens. I tell every Airbnb guest, you can live in the house for 4 years and think that you've caught everything. 2 guests in, they're going to find something you never knew was there because they're looking for it. This is what people do now. They're looking for those little bitty things so they can point something out. It's not, hey, your brand looks great. It's, no, you misspelled this word. Hey, it's not this, you misplaced that. They do this all the time. And I say to myself when they DM me, who the fuck asked you?
Did you get the memo? Did you get the message though? Because I know, Monica, you mentioned you had a typo. I have typos. I just had a typo on something, and it's like, you know what?
You know what I do now?
People still like it.
Julie, you know what I do?
They get the message.
Julie, you know what I do? Oh my God, there's an amazing book called Blue Fishing. This guy, Steve Simmons, he helps like his clients do amazing thing. He misspells words on purpose to get his clients' attention. So they'll have to reach out to him. So I actually leave it in there to mess with people sometimes.
Okay. I'm using that now. I'm using that so much because, as everyone knows who works with me, I have a proofreader and editor because my client's work needs to be spot on. It needs to be great. I can help write the content, but the spelling, the sentence structure. So I hired her to fill in something not my strength so I can do my strength. But when it comes to my own stuff, I don't spend the $5 or $15 every day to have her proofread something before in her schedule. Like, it's impossible. So on my own stuff, I'm like, I freak out about that. I get really afraid about that.
It creates engagement.
So, however, I thought later, I'm like, this is an example of like not getting my perfectionistic self. It doesn't have to be perfect to work. I'm like, I want to be a bit of an example for people of releasing some of this perfectionism that I have. Because again, the perfectionism is just fear. For me, whenever I see it coming, I'm like, okay, now that I'm being perfectionist, what am I afraid of?
What do we talk about on my podcast? Because I have a client that's doing this too. It's fear that somebody's going to think that you're not your best, right? Mm-hmm. And so we over prepare so we can catch every situation, but actually the underlying cause of that is fear that they're going to catch you.
Okay. Well, I'm leaving some typos now, and I'm going to super own it, and I'm going to use it as a strategy. I love it. What I was doing as a strategy, something that my past like boss / manager, berated me on all the time. Like I was never good enough with the misspelling. Anytime I had one in an email, damn, she's all over me. But now, hey, it's a strategy. I like it. All right.
It's definitely a strategy. I would encourage my clients that, that were engaged in something like this. It's all about, I help people unravel the mess that they're in so that they can be their authentic self. Like every single person has this amazing gift inside of them that needs to be released. And it's hardwired into us, and it's raw and messy. And most people think it's the most ugly thing because they're conditioned to believe that. Their entire lives, they were conditioned because it was so raw and ugly. They were corrected or maybe even berated because they didn't know how to utilize their super strength. And so I help people actually tap into that and unravel. And on this, it's like, as they are unraveling this, this is the jawbreaker. This is part of that unraveling, getting down to the core of who you are and your super strength is, all right, so what? So maybe for an entire year, maybe for a week, a day, 6 months, whatever it is, there doesn't have to be a timeline, but maybe you test the waters on this because you don't know where you are and you need to figure out where you are, and not something that's imposed by outside structures, which again would be alarming to a lot of people in my world. It's like you can't let outside things impose on you. Everything that you need is within you, and you need to look to that and say, what is it that I need to be doing and saying, and how do I need to be showing up so that I am authentic?
That's so important, Julie, because exactly what you're doing with your clients are the things that I wish some of my clients would do. Not wish. I hope and I want my clients to do these types of things before they come to me for branding, because when we've hit the time of what is it that your business that you're creating, what makes you uniquely you, that's your unique selling point. Like, I need to work with them on this level, but it's turned into brand coaching because what I had to do naturally, I was always doing it. I had to get these things out of them. What the heck am I going to build the website with? How are we going to communicate what the business does? How are we going to position the product, whatever it is? But it's two different levels, like you're describing. The unraveling is kind of this unbecoming all the things that they're not. People come to me all the time thinking that they have to be something that they're not in order to market their business. And so I like to do some exercises and assessments, some projects even essentially that help uncover what it is that is their personalities in their core. And then we can use the personalities to then kind of create that brand persona. But the other aspect of it that is really limiting my clients in getting the most out of their project, or limiting them in the following time, even though we've done the project, is again, this identity shift. So there are parts of them that are who they are. They just don't know them yet because we haven't either learned it, we haven't exercised it. We've let our fears and all these limiting beliefs tell us something else that we're not. So if you would have asked me 10 years ago, if you would have thought that I'd be a speaker, oh, I would have said, yeah, you're funny. Never, ever gonna happen. Like, I hate speaking in front of class. I would pass out in class, like made me physically ill. Afraid, super shy kid. And so it was something I had to slowly work up to. But some clients are like, I hate photos. I don't take photos of me. We need to do this without photos. And I'm like, how are they going to get to know who you are? How are we going to create this credibility and build this evidence? How are we going to create that no trust and like factor? They don't even see you. That's one of the things I coach my clients through. And it's not this who you are now. It's this identity shift. Who are you becoming? Who will you be? And it's authentic as well. It's just that gap that Julie's talking about. It's the layers of the jawbreaker. We're out here, and at the core, we are a stronger version of ourselves, but we can't see that. And we're letting all these other past or lack of experiences dictate how we're trying to develop a business, step out into the world now. And so sometimes we just need an identity shift of someone who's not afraid of this, someone who is okay with this, an identity shift of maybe being someone who cusses a lot to not, or vice versa, being afraid of cussing to, based on your environment too. I think it's all just an identity shift, being open to that and exploring that. And it's really hard to explore that yourself. I know you guys are going to back me up on this one too. Like, it's hard for me to do my own branding. Every time I'm like, I have 1,000 ideas and I don't know what's me. Like, I wish I had my own person to step in and help me like refine my own message. It's harder to do it ourselves. But as soon as we get that outsider to provoke the questions, to listen to us and hear, oh, they said this word opportunity 6 times in the last 10 minutes. There is something tied to opportunity in their why, in their message, and what it is that they want to do. But I didn't hear it for myself too. So getting an outsider to listen in and provoke, but just as Austin said too, like, we need the punch in the face and then the hug, and we can't really give that to ourselves very well.
If I had showed up to work with you, Monica, which I'm like, brand Sherpa, if I had showed up to work with you a year, 2 years earlier, I would not have had the same outcome but I had chosen to work with a coach, and I've been a lifelong personal development, seeking to learn and grow person, but really literally putting my money into that, investing financially into that growth and development, into my coaching, you know, having an outsider help me unravel a lot of the layers. It's paramount, and it doesn't matter where you're at in life. You can be 80 years old. Like, there's still something else that we have to give to the world at every stage of life.
Yeah, absolutely. So in that regard, I guess we can do a sign off, but if anyone's interested in working with you guys, where's the best place to find you? Is there any particular like niche of clients or something that someone's looking to achieve that you can help them achieve?
Head over to julieholly.com. You can connect with me there. Hop onto my schedule. I work specifically with people who are wanting to shift lines. So they know, they feel that there is something within them. They don't know how to give voice to that. They don't know how to overcome the elements that have suffocated them throughout their entire life. This is all resonating with me because I had that. I was always, kind of, effervescent, for lack of a better word, and told to be quiet and told I was, to this, to that, to that. And those are my super strengths. And so I work with people to identify what are those things that you've been told those are your weaknesses, and let's reevaluate. And let's, unravel your world so that you can sparkle and shine.
And I think that's business and professionally as well.
It is.
Yes,
it is.
Julie.
Business wise, I'm always helping people shift lines. I love it. If you just hop on a call with me for like 30 minutes, I guarantee you'll walk away with something.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, personally, working with Julie, our conversations that we have outside of work, I go, dang, I didn't see it like that. And man, that's good. Like every time it's just this like sweet pulling at me and great stuff comes out. And then Austin, specifically, what do you help people do, and who do you focus in on in your coaching?
I can't answer that question because it just matters who finds me. I have women, I have men, I have people from Canada, I have people from all over the country. We're just trying to create the best version of themselves, whatever that looks like for them. I don't coach in a box, so I tailor my program to what they need in that moment, who they show up for, and 90% of the time they come to me for one reason, and we wound up going 100% the other direction. So that's just through feel and energy. But you can check that out at austinlinney.com, Linney. And when you're tooling around on Julie's site, enjoy it because it was built by an amazing person called Monica. So enjoy that website, and can't thank you enough for this conversation, both of y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so good to have you guys here because in the business aspect and in the personal development aspect, you guys have helped me so much in seeing things so much more clearly, even in like 20, 30-minute calls. So anyone in the personal realm, especially professional personal realm, I recommend both of you guys. So if either of them resonated, go check out their sites to learn more, join Julie's book club. Austin's got an amazing podcast as well, Construct Your Life podcast, and Julie's podcast you can find at she's doing a branding shift right now. It is amazing. So it's the Conscious Investor podcast.
And I'll just give you I cannot thank you enough, Monica, one, for the opportunity to be here with you in Austin, because I love our conversations that the three of us have. But you've helped me rebrand my website, my company at the beginning of, 2020 or 2021? 2021. Yeah. At the beginning of the year. And then, now we're, nearing Q4, and you've helped me rebrand my podcast. But all of that started, guys, who you surround yourself matters, because these two people have had extreme influence in my life. The Conscious Investor is happening because of a damn it, Austin moment. Yes. And I cannot thank you enough. And that's just a matter of being open to opportunity and saying, hey, smoky times, come hang out with us up here in North Idaho. And next thing you know, you're having a rebrand and you're reaching out to your brand Sherpa because Monica, you just tackle everything and make everything beautiful, but you make a message very clear. And you are extraordinary.
I couldn't have asked for better guests to explore this concept and authenticity today. If you or someone you know would benefit from this message, please share it with them on social media as a way for us to thank these amazing guests and some of their valuable coaching insight. I will see you next week. And in the meantime, freely express yourself and put some more of you into your brand. We want to see, hear, and more of what you have. My name is Monica Fawn. I'm an artist and marketing assistant turned brand Sherpa and website designer. I help people just like you and me be on fire and sustainably profitable, to be on brand, incomparable in your industry with a personal brand, and on purpose, walking your path of fulfillment. And last and not least, be authentic, living a life true to yourself and free.